How y'all doing? My name's Blair, this is Sean. We're with the Alabama Voting Rights Project. We're out here giving out some information about a change in the voting rights laws that lets people who thought that they couldn't vote because of a criminal conviction get their voting rights back.
Alabama is one of dozens of states reworking their laws restoring convicted felons' right to vote. But walk through almost any town in the state, it's clear many people have no idea they're eligible to cast a ballot.
It's pretty easy to see that the word hasn't gotten around as much as it could have. Most people think that they can't get their voting rights back. Anyone who has a conviction thinks they can't vote. I've even met people who have misdemeanor or traffic violations who think they can't vote. Really, the most effective way to get the word out is what we're doing right now. It's going door to door. Why don't we start here?
Tamika Kyles was one of the first doors we knocked on.
You only got convicted of 2 counts of burglary third. And that means that you can actually register to vote under the new law.
That's right. I can?
Yeah.
Never lost.
Can we get you registered?
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
All right, cool.
I'm feeling good. I feel excited. I mean, for real, I have a chance. My part, my half on the situation like everyone else. So I feel I'm equal.
For years, Tamika, like many other felons, wasn't able to vote. That's before the law changed. The movement against allowing felons a vote all dates back more than 100 years to a pretty confusing law.
So it said anyone who has committed a crime of moral turpitude loses their right to vote, but they didn't define what moral turpitude meant. So that decision was in the hands of individual county registrars for over 100 years. And so what you had was a patchwork of laws across the state, and the reason is because it took the state so long to define what crimes took away people's rights to vote.
Now they've clarified that 117-year-old statute, so the Campaign Legal Center and the Southern Poverty Law Center are letting people know exactly which crimes bar you from voting.
These are the disqualifying convictions.
They're crimes like murder and burglary in the first degree, but crimes like drug possession no longer prohibit felons from voting.
So we're driving to Marion, Alabama right now. It's about an hour and a half outside of Montgomery. It's a pretty rural area, so we're going to be going door to door with a group of people to see if anybody there has convictions but may now be eligible to vote under the new law.
We have a lot of people who've done time in our community.
There's a privilege, and I think people should have a right to vote.
Luke White is 35 years old. Before 2012, he was a voter. Then he was convicted of a felony, and for years after he served his time, thought he couldn't vote.
When did you get your rights restored?
I just got it this year.
How long did you
6 years.
that you didn't vote for?
And I did vote.
Luke had his rights restored just in time for last December's special Alabama Senate election.
How did that feel when you got the chance to cast that ballot?
It made me feel good.
Yeah.
Real proud of myself.
How come?
Because I had a right, because at first I didn't have the privilege when I thought I did. But since I had that privilege, it made me feel good.
He's now paying it forward to people like 53-year-old Walter Moore.
So you had actually gone to the polls and been turned away.
Yes, several times.
We're standing here on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. This is where that historic march from Selma to Montgomery took place, and it spurred the Voting Rights Act in 1965. But decades later, legislation was still being passed to suppress the vote.
Moore says each time he's tried to vote in the last few years, he was reminded of what happened to make that bridge so famous.
How did you feel when you'd go there trying to exercise this right and you'd be turned away?
Somewhat reminisce the history of the people in the 60s and the 50s. I felt that. I somewhat felt what they went through.
Did you feel like you were still paying for a crime that you had already paid for?
Yeah, because it was over. Everything was paid for and it was done.
Now he's got his rights back and plans to vote in the July 17th runoff for his district's congressional seat.
Are you excited?
Somewhat, because they always turn me back and now they can't.
So you're going to feel an accomplishment when you get to that booth?
Yeah, and
make it past the table?
Yeah, you always tell me I got to go back now. I can actually present something in my favor to vote.
This has been an issue not just where Moore lives, but across Alabama. According to the Sentencing Project, in 2016, nearly 144,000 African Americans with felony convictions were disenfranchised. That's more than 15% of the population.
Before the new law passed, 286,000 people had lost their voting rights because of a conviction.
Conservative critics often say Democrats are using this law to get more votes.
A last-minute push by Democrats, including Pastor Kenneth Glasgow, leading a statewide initiative to get as many felons registered to vote come December 12th.
But in reality, it was a Republican legislature who passed the law and a Republican governor who signed it.
Regardless, in just 3 weeks, Luke and Walter will walk up to their polling place and present their IDs, and they'll take part in an act of patriotism people are often indifferent about, but one they'll never take for granted again.
So many Americans choose not to.
But I choose, no, two. I choose to vote.